Hey, everybody. Welcome to the SBP Podcast, the voice of mobile film. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you're listening to episode 45. 2018 is almost over, and I want to take a minute here to thank all of you for listening. Giving a voice to this niche, mobile film, has always been very important to me. And the ability to share discussions with people like you all around the world is not only remarkable, but it's super appreciated. It's not the easiest thing to do with the time difference. Actually, that can be tough. Also, as you know, running the film festival and other programs is also a challenge. But we're going into 2019. And I look back to this podcast and I am so grateful to our guests and our listeners. That's you. It's good to know that our guests are able to give a voice to this awesome movement, to give power to storytelling through film and video to everyone who has a phone with a camera. But no matter where you are in the universe or what the limitations of your resources are, all of you can do it. Thanks to the phone that's always with you. I do hope that this podcast has inspired you. Actually, I want to ask you directly, has it? Because if it has, then tag us on social media at SBP Podcast and share it with us. Let us know. I want to know. There is no amount of money and no amount of followers that can equal you sharing that with me. I think our guests would actually love to hear that too. So if you can, tag them and share that you've heard them in our podcast. So listen, not everyone is celebrating the same holidays right now. So in order to cover every one of you, I wish all of you, wherever you are, wherever and whatever you're celebrating during this time of year, a very happy holiday. And a super amazing 2019 too. We will see you again next year because we are going to, I am going to take some time during the holidays to work on the film festival. And by the way, in case you didn't know, that's taking place on April 27th and 28th, 2019 in San Diego. And you know what? This is a good time to announce our guest for this podcast. Kind of think of it. I might as well just hurry up and get there, right? So his name is Ross Perkins. He will be here in San Diego for the film festival, screening his very first film. Yeah, the very first film. He's never made a film before, ever. But he is an actor. And now he's also a filmmaker. So he's been acting for quite some time. And from that experience, he got the bug. That's the creator bug that I'm talking about. But here's the thing. He made a great full-length feature film using his iPhone. Can you believe that? His very first film ever, he makes a full-length feature film and then shoots it with an iPhone. It was so good that it was selected to screen as a part of our mobile feature film competition this year. You will find more information about our film festival at www.internationalmobilefilmfestival.com. Okay, so are you ready to listen to his story? His film is called Madhouse. And if you come to the film festival here in San Diego, you'll be able to see it and meet Ross Perkins, who will be flying in from Australia in person. So let's go talk to Ross. Hey everybody, welcome to the SBP Podcast. How you doing there, Ross?
Well, thank you. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Ross Perkins is in Sydney in Australia, and he was just telling me about how they're going through summer while we here in San Diego are going through, extravagant, horrible snow. No, we're not, but still.
Oh, wow, okay. You painted a picture. It was very vivid.
It's in the 70s here, but we're cold. Ross is one of the feature film, I almost said actor, but you're one of the feature filmmakers
Hmm.
who is coming to San Diego in April for the film festival to screen uh, your your wonderful film, actually. And so I wanted to introduce you to our listeners. You can't see them; they're little ghosts, and they can't see you. You're a ghost. But we wanted to share this with them because you are basically the first full featured length film uh, uh, contestant
Oh, wow.
in the film festival. Yes. And so because we had it last year, but not enough people were making mobile films like
Hmm.
that long. I mean, Hollywood was.
Yeah.
But regular people, I mean, it takes a lot more work. Although, I want to share with our listeners that this is the Ross is mainly or maybe was, right? An
Hmm.
actor.
Hmm.
And this is your very first film. So why don't you share a little bit about who Ross Perkins is, and somehow if you can slip in there how long you have been acting and what made you want to be an actor as well.
Well, primarily I'm a film buff,
Oh.
so I love movies. I probably have watch about 4 movies a week, and that started way back when I was a kid. And I'm the youngest of six, so I've got 3 older brothers and 2 sisters. And growing up, we all shared a tiny 30 centimeter TV, and you had to watch what everyone else had to watch. And my brothers are a lot bigger than I am; they're about 6 foot. And Top Gun was always on rotation on a VHS tape. Die Hard on rotation. Lethal Weapon. So I was kind of raised on those sorts of films, which yeah, so no Disney movies. And that really instilled the love of acting. Just watching the Bruce Willises and the Mel Gibsons, and that's where it all started for me. Um, and then also the joy of doing it. I think I love the focus when you're acting. All the white noise goes away, and you can just concentrate on the person you're in a scene with. That's really appealing to me. And also, especially when you're young, I've been acting through high school, and it's a pretty angsty age to be in, a lot of angst. So it was a wonderful catalyst to get all of that stuff out of my system, acting, and it stuck with me ever since.
So when acting, you were just talking about acting in high school, and
Mm.
that's actually, I mean, I don't know. I think most schools do offer, I don't know about what they call it there, but they call it drama, the drama classes here.
Yeah, yeah, we had that. Yeah, in fact, in my year, I was one of the first years to actually have it. So when I started school, um, they didn't have it before I got there, which is lovely.
Oh, so you brought it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And also the drama departments and the kids in the school or the teenagers, whatever, that are in high school acting usually are the funnest group, right? Because they're pretty much crazy and random and willing to do just about anything for attention, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I fit right in. But no, it was wonderful. And then I kept doing it. I started looking for acting classes outside school. Hassled my parents for that, and my parents have always been encouraging.
Oh, good.
Um, and then from there, I went to university and studied theatre. And then from that, I moved to England, and I did attended a drama school called the Method Studio, and that was big on voice and the English, very classical form of theatre. And then I went to LA and studied at the Beverly Hills Playhouse, and that changed my life. Made me a better actor, I think. When I first started, they kind of had to beat the acting out of me. The first scenes that I had to do in front of people, it was always kind of met with, "What the hell was that?" You know. So they kind of gave me the confidence to be myself. when I'm acting, which is something I never had before.
Yeah, because actually I was talking to someone who coaches acting and teaches it, and he was telling me that they're not really acting or performing. They're really just playing uh, sort of like, I guess he was trying to say that they that if you're acting, you're so much into your character that you don't feel like you're performing.
Yeah, yeah. And you get that, I think. I mean, I don't think I possessed that quality before.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Playhouse really nurtured that. Um, but it's probably a little bit more exhausting after you've done a scene that requires a lot of you. It is hard to maintain that energy. And also, I'm not a method actor. I kind of do it in the moment, and I prepare, but I do leave it at the door.
That's interesting. So, I mean, in a way, that almost sounds like a gift.
Um, I give it a lot of attention. I focus on it a great deal, and I've had to work at it. It didn't happen overnight.
Well, most definitely not. I mean, yeah, that's fantastic. So so you come from the stage, and then you've done some camera acting as well, right? I mean, film acting.
Yeah, I love doing theatre. The best thing about theatre is you're following a character from the first scene all the way to the very end, and that's wonderful because you get to experience it almost in real time.
Yeah.
Um, but when you're doing a film, of course, it's completely out of sequence. So you get there and they go, "Well, this is page 15. So this happened beforehand," and you never experienced it. You just gotta uh, go from your gut or be directed. So the beauty of theatre is you get to track it from beginning, middle, and end, and they are different. I mean, the root of it's the same. You're portraying a character, but there are tricks with camera. Like you got to be more still. The camera picks up everything, so you can't really act too much. The camera doesn't really like acting, I found. So you have to, and then you also can't be self-conscious. It's I've heard that self-consciousness is the death of acting, and the camera will smell that out.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I've worked on film sets where the actor has, four people, he's supposed to be alone, having a moment, and it's a close up because he's having a moment. So they're trying to pick up the emotion and everything. And there's like four people all around, and they're literally within inches, the lenses of the
Yeah,
camera within inches of his nose. And
yeah.
I'm
No,
like,
it's
I don't know how I would be able to do that.
it depends on the size of the camera. I mean, with
Hmm.
the Madhouse, I found that because it's an iPhone that you're throwing around, so a lot of the tension that you can get from having a giant rig in your face a quarter of an inch away, that kind of goes with, and that's one of the reasons why the Madhouse worked really well, I
Yeah,
think.
I have a few questions about how that worked. Your synopsis for the film, just for our listeners, because they're not going to watch it until they come to San Diego and watch it in our film festival.
Yeah.
um, well, I mean, it's your film. Later, you could do whatever you want, and you could do whatever you want whenever you want, anyway. So, but still, for purposes of this podcast, so the synopsis says Dale Mortimer is a successful businessman with a wife and a daughter. His happy home life is destroyed when three junkies use Dale's smartphone to use his personal information against him and hold his family hostage. But of course, it's a lot crazier than that.
Yeah,
uh, hence
yeah.
the name Madhouse.
I
But
got to thank you for skirting through all the spelling and grammar errors. So thank you for that.
but what I wanted to share with people, so basically, it's called Madhouse, and I wanted to ask you because you're talking about the actors, right? So
Hmm.
so you are acting in the film and you're
Hmm.
directing,
Mm.
And you're the camera person a lot of times too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So now, so we were just talking about having the cameras, and you said something about flinging it around, right? So, so
Yeah.
just to get painting a picture for our listeners, how the heck are you supposed to direct and pay attention to what is being filmed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have ideas because I troubleshoot where I would say, oh, we'll just do this. And then, like in my case, I would say, oh, we'll just film it. And because we're on an iPhone, we'll just replay it. And if it looks good to me, we won't have to do a retake.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much what I did. The takes were long.
Okay.
So that would slow things down a little bit, but I think what helped me was that it is almost like a found footage film.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't too concerned with the visuals. I wanted to block everyone, the actors. I think I might have had a harder job if I was dealing with lighting rigs and the placement of the camera. I was very happy to have it roam in the space. One of my concerns was I didn't want too much equipment. I mean, also it wasn't a choice. I didn't have any, but um, I wanted the camera to have free reign in the room. So if it kept moving, I was cool with that.
Yeah, and the other thing too, in relating it to acting, I would think maybe I want you to correct me here or add to this, but I would think that because the actors, all of you guys did a terrific job in staying in character, right?
Yeah, thank
And
you.
no, you really did. I mean, you're watching this at first and you're thinking, is this really like real found footage?
Cool.
Or is this like the whole thing is an act? You kind of question yourself as you're watching it, in which you should be because that's you're a part of the story as the viewer,
Mm.
in that sense. It's like you're watching this footage and you're going, are these people for real?
Yeah.
you know? And so the fact that I think that everyone was holding the camera themselves, like we're all used to holding my phone lives in my hand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we're all used to that. And I think that maybe because of that, it enabled the acting to not have to break. You were just talking about scene 15 here, scene 2 later, and things like that. But maybe you could still do that here, in which I'm sure you had to. But at the same time, the scenes weren't broken up in a way that they couldn't stay in character because they were shooting themselves. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah. I think I looked for good actors. I they all had their own processes. I only had one rule really, which is the actors had to respect each other's processes. So whatever they've got to do, if one of them needs to go off into a corner and bawl their eyes out, you have to allow that person to do that, and you can't make fun of them. But other than that, that was my only rule. But I'm a big believer in focus. So I also want to have fun. So we had the happiest time of my life was making the movie. But before each setup, I would tell the actors, I just go, just prepare, and they knew what that meant. That meant just focus on what you're about to do, and that helped to keep them focused.
It was it was horribly, and I mean that in a good way. It was horribly realistic. It really was. It's got some violence. It's a thriller comedy. At
I'm
first
glad
I
you got
was
the comedy.
like,
That's cool. I wasn't.
yeah, say that again.
Oh, I'm glad that you got the comedy. I'm glad that you found it funny.
Yeah, well, there were parts when I was like, okay, this is not funny.
Yeah, yeah,
but it
yeah.
it
Let's go for more
has.
cheek. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so what I've noticed from Australian films for the most
Yeah.
part is that you have a different style of comedy, which is like dark comedy and
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of like, okay, remember that scene you've seen Pulp Fiction?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, you know that scene? It's my favorite scene. I know this is gonna
Is it the
tell
needle?
it. No,
Oh, okay. Right.
no, I don't like those. It's the one where they're all in the car and they're messing around with the gun
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
goes off. It just blows this guy's brains out right in the back
Yep.
seat, right? And it was
Yep.
just like, oh, what just happened? It was so random. That's to me like one of the best examples I could give to our listeners of what I think Australian comedy in action films and things like that are like, right?
Yep. You hit the nail on the head.
Literally.
It's not all Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, no, right. Yeah, and so there's a lot of that in this film. Um, but you know, like, okay, so you had, let me go, because I do have, this is a conversation, but I do want to touch on something. So I've got a couple of things that I wanted to ask you. Now, first of all, did you have any external sound recording, or did you just grab everything with a phone?
I had a very good friend that I used to work with called Missy Mel, and she works at a very prominent film school in Australia called AFTRS, and I told her what I was doing, and she gave me a wonderful education. So she told me that I needed to get a small shotgun mic, a Rode mic, for the phone. So it had that, and I also bought 4 lapel mics for the actors, and then she also told me to back everything up. And then she told me to I already had a camera. So she said, like a real video camera. And she said, just hide that in the set with the sound going, with a mic sticking out of it. So that's hidden in the set. And that should cover everything. That should cover all your bases. And if I could plant all of these things before each shot, then that was how I did the audio.
Wow. So you used when you say real camera, and to most of our listeners, the real camera is the one in your pocket, right? When you used a camera, right, instead of a phone, that was basically just to record the audio or just to
Yes.
cover in case. Okay, good.
Yeah, just to cover the audio. Yeah.
So
It's hidden. Yeah.
So yeah, that's good because there's some overlapping on the audio when you're stopping the camera, you know, or passing it from one person to another. And I could just imagine, you know, even with the hands going over, you know, on the when I say camera, I mean the phone.
Yeah.
Covering the microphone and all kinds of things like that. So that's why I was asking because the sound is great on the film as well.
Oh, terrific. That's a massive relief. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, so
Sounds the hardest bit. It really is. And especially in post.
Sure.
That there's a lot of, and it is dialogue heavy, the film.
Mm-hmm.
So that means a lot. So thank you.
Well, and speaking of the dialogue, I mean this film was, I mean, it's very easy to forget that you're watching a film that was shot with phones, even though it's right there in your face that it was shot with phones.
Yeah, one of my things that I wanted to do was the house has a lot of windows in it, and I wanted reflections. I wanted you better see the characters holding the phones while the scenes are taking place, just to kind of break that fourth wall a bit. So I'm proud of how that turned out.
Well, yeah, and also because it's just completely obvious that, I mean, it's part of the camera, the phone is one of the characters in your film.
Yes, yeah, that's right. So that's the device I use to tell the story. So there's text messages, phone calls, photos,
GPS, maps.
GPS, yeah, apps. So structurally, it's the same. Like it's a beginning, middle, and an end. But I kind of wanted the film to be almost like a patchwork quilt, just if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, everything everything. So the way that the film flows, it's so realistic. So first of all, you've got this film where it's shot with a phone, found footage, right? So that already gives it that realistic film. But you did something that I haven't seen in any films like this before, which is you really incorporated the, what we go through in our daily lives. We don't stop to think about it. We just, I mean, it's a part of us,
Mhm.
what we do on the phone. So
Yeah, yeah.
so part of our life story, the stitching of the quilt of our lives now involves things that we do on the phone. Like for example, if I get, you know what, I want to have fish tacos. I wonder how they make. Those are my favorite.
Okay.
I but I can't get
And
out
like,
of the house. I can't go out to get tacos. So you know what? I'm going to find out how they make that sauce. So I just naturally go and Google it and get the recipe, and then I make it, and then it's delicious.
yeah, yeah.
But I don't think about that. But if somebody was watching the story, right, it's like, oh, she's going to make dinner. Oh, naturally, she goes to Google and gets the recipe. And you incorporate that as part of your film. And it's very natural.
Oh, terrific.
And but at the same time, it's like, oh, look what they did there. It's intriguing.
Yeah, the one scene. Well, there's two. The one where it's you're just hearing Dale being attacked,
Yeah.
and it's just the audio. That was a bit of a challenge, and I always wanted that scene. And that's all audio. And then also the text message where the Bryce character gets headbutted. That only came together in the edit. Um, and I've learned so many lessons, particularly with the writing. Everything makes sense to me, of course, because it's in my head. It's been living and marinating. But does it communicate to an audience? That's the big one. So it's that particular scene took a lot of energy.
Well, and the setting for the story itself, so for our listeners, I mean, it starts off very, very much like what it's not going to be like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, I tricked you.
Yeah, it's a real trick. So it starts off, very placid,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And very, and it's text messages. Now, of course, you've got the cute little sounds, from the maps and the, all these little sounds that our phones make, and it's setting up the story. And the family is very typical, and the whole thing is very very now, like what we're all like now.
Mm.
And then it just starts turning and turning, and it's next thing you know, it's all on fire.
Yeah, yeah. If I could, yeah. Or if I that was in one draft,
Yeah.
but I had to scrap that. A mate of mine took me out of it.
Yeah, no, it's great. And so then again, you have all these locations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you have pubs, houses, streets, cars. Um, how did you how did you accomplish this? Most people will say, and you're probably going to say the same thing. Well, because it's a phone, we got away with
Mm.
a lot.
Yeah, that's certainly part of it. Absolutely. What I did because I didn't have a budget. Well, I had a very very small budget. I was more interested in using resources.
Yeah.
So the way I got these places was just through the love and kindness of my friends. They all wanted to help me out, and I'm forever indebted to all of them. Also, I had an amazing producer, Kimberly Hart, and if there's a location, she'd be all over it. And she was wonderful, and I, honest to God, couldn't have done it without her. So um, it's I had her, and that was the biggest thing that I had working for me.
You had at one scene you had what, like 20 actors in the scenes in some of
Yeah,
them?
that's the house party scene,
Yeah.
and that's all my friends coming to bat, coming to help me. And that
I'm
was
sure you had
probably
to twist their arms.
well, I said that I'm gonna have beer, so that helped. Um, and that was probably one of the happiest moments of my life. but I was very busy that night. And there was alcohol in the film.
Yeah.
And I know at one point we did a short scene where people were playing a drinking game. And then my first AD, Mitch, he came up to me and said, "Oh, we've got to organize dinner for everyone." So he bought a bunch of pizzas, and then I was gone for about 5 minutes. And I think I might not have said cut because they were still playing the drinking game. And I was still getting a bit out of hand. So I had to, stop that a bit. But no, it was a...
Well, you don't stop acting until you hear a cut, no matter what happens.
That's right. So they're the method actors. They're the real method actors. That's right. But they were wonderful, I think. Don't you think? They were just running around and causing trouble. A lot of that wasn't me directing them. That was...
I don't know. I've never been at a party like that before. Yeah, that was amazing. Not only that, but there's so much mayhem that took place on. But it's all part of the story, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I wanted to. I think the tone that I was going for was very much in vogue of A Clockwork Orange.
Yeah.
That sense of chaos, and the juxtaposition between the happy family. One of the things I did was I watched, when I had the idea anyway, is I watched every home invasion movie I could. And it's a genre unto itself, home invasion films.
Yeah.
And I found they're kind of the same in that the family, when you meet them, are generally not getting along. They go through a traumatic event, and then at the end, almost always the house burns down. And then the family's closer for the experience. But I wanted to kind of go a different way, show the family was already pretty happy. And then just unleash utter chaos on the poor things.
Yeah, and the family, wow. It was just like this whole, like I said in the beginning, you have these people going about their lives and everything, and then you have this unfolding, literally, like I said before, that happens, but it's also the characters, the family, the people in the family, and how that develops.
Yeah, I was, my mate Peter Maple, he's in the film.
Yeah.
And he watched an early cut, and I think a compliment that he gave me was it's almost like a train, and it's just dropping off all these different characters at different stations, just keeps moving. And also the other biggest compliment I got was my friend Chris, who looked at it and he said, asked me, the first thing he did when he saw them was ask me where I got the real family from. So that's nice.
Wow.
So they didn't know each other before we filmed. So Derbler, who's the mum, and Matt, I met on a play. And that was one of the first plays I did in Sydney when I came back from the States. And I saw them work together, and I just thought they had great chemistry. And then Tequila, who's the daughter, Gabby, and she's got the biggest role, I think. She's in every scene.
Oh, well, yeah, she ends up being almost the protagonist.
Yes, that's right. So I kind of wanted to follow one person at least, have one person in there. And she can convey a lot just by sitting there. So she was fantastic. And she was also the wild card. I wrote this character and I didn't know anyone to play it. So I had to really try and find not only someone that looked like the daughter of Matt and Derbler, but also a really gifted actor who's willing to work for free or deferred payment.
That's
but
the
also,
hardest part.
and be in every scene.
Yeah.
So she did fantastic, and also her commitment. She lived 2 hours away.
Oh, wow.
So she would have to, go out of her way to be there. And she's fantastic, and I'm very proud of all of them.
How long did this take you, like in pre-production, compared to once you were in production?
So the production, pre-production, sorry.
Yeah, like did it take you longer to plan this this
Mm.
whole movie before you got it, and then which one took longer?
I would say the pre-production,
Mm.
um, but also it's my first feature film, so in all honesty, I wasn't even sure if I could do it. um,
But you did such
but
a good job. I
yeah,
mean, I mean, I mean, it's
uh,
not, a lot of the people that you hear talking about how they troubleshoot, like in regular films, right? Like how are they going to troubleshoot like movies with aliens and things like that happen? They're apocalyptic movies, and they're going, how can we make this the lighting? There was a film I watched, which had to do with caves, and they
mm,
said the best way we overcame the problems we were going to have in filming in caves with lighting and things like that was we decided to, have one of the characters is holding a, like a camcorder and recording everything.
yeah, terrific.
And
That's a
and
great idea.
so that's it. So it was sloppy, but it was okay because that was part of the story. But the
Mm,
thing is, in for a first time filmmaker, I mean, the story was very well done. It has a lot of really, really good elements to it, I think.
yeah.
Like
Thank you.
for example, we were just talking about, the girl, the daughter, and you don't realize when you're first watching that it's really almost it's like when you're watching the Walking Dead series, if
Mhm.
you've been watching that, well, everybody's
Yeah,
like, oh, it's Carl's story, oh no,
mm,
it's so and so's story, it's like, oh no, it's the little girl's story, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah,
we're talking Hollywood here, but you're kind of doing that thing in the same way, and then at the end you're going, oh my god, it's her story.
yeah, yeah. Great. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. And then of course, you come to the end of the story of the film and there's a little thing in there and it says, "Oh, this was based on a true story." Huh?
Yes, yeah. So the true story is American, um,
Mm.
and it's horrific. Two daughters, a husband, and a wife, and the husband survived. And I just found that so horrific. And I wanted to tell that story, but that story is so horrific that I actually dumbed it down.
Mm.
Um, I made it as tasteful as I could. The real story is just far too horrific. Um, so, and also transplanted it to Australia as well.
Hmm. And I wanted to ask you about that. Did the When you decided you wanted to make a film, you decided to want to make a film, and then you found this true story and decided that's what you would make your film on, or was it the other way around?
I found the true story first.
Okay.
Yeah, and I thought that would be and also then the iPhone came into it. A big uh, inspiration for me was the original Blair Witch. Um,
I love that too.
yeah, just because of the way it's shot, like it is so um, grimy and raw. And I've seen recent found footage films that have Dolby Atmos 7.1 audio, and also they've been lit by production designers and stuff like that. And I, as a choice, decided to make and also make my life easier. Go a bit more towards the original Blair Witch.
Yeah, well, I was in college when that film came out. So
Mm,
I experienced that whole, I remember seeing on the light posts and things like that, the little, we're looking, have you seen them? Have you, they're lost. We can't find them, three people went out to film a documentary. I was, in college, taking classes for video production and film.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was really ironic. And yeah, so yeah, I loved that film. As a matter of fact, in our classes, we used that as an example for the most amazing marketing of its time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I bought into it when it came out. thought it was real, and I remember I stayed to the end to see the following is fiction
Did you
graphic at
see
the end.
did you see the documentary? There was a documentary about the actual Blair Witch, which included that story and their story in the film before the movie came out.
Oh, well, like as a tie-in or as a
Yeah, as
different?
a tie-in,
Yeah,
and
wow,
so
that's
they were
fantastic.
telling the story about this guy who went out and murdered children and all this stuff as a
Mm,
documentary shot, with footage from I don't know the 20s and the 30s or something like that. I can't remember. And then they had and this is where they found this footage, and they're showing rocks, and they're showing that the footage was found underneath this historical you know, other stuff, and made it really creepy.
mm, yeah.
And yeah, and that was part of their marketing.
Well, I considered at one point putting up wanted posters. I mean, missing persons posters for the family, but I thought that's pretty irresponsible. So,
Well,
I'm not sure about
yeah, well,
that.
nowadays things have changed.
Yes, yeah.
But I think, but at the time, yeah, Blair Witch was just, I mean, I remember our instructor calling it genius as far as
Mm,
marketing, because they had no budget for marketing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but I mean that's another avenue that I've had to at least dip my toe in. And I mean the platform is there to be able to self promote. And social media is such an important element these days. So it's probably more possible now to reach a greater number of people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got it. You were talking about, all your films and the people that helped you
Mm.
in making the film, and I'm sure they're helping you with the marketing part as well, right?
Yeah, they're doing their best. I've the beauty of this experience is that I've had to follow everything. I've had an education on every level. So I had an education in pre-production, had an education in production, post-production. I had to become an editor, pretty much.
Yeah.
Edited the film, and that took the best part of a year and a half. Um,
Yeah, because you finished it in October of this year.
yes, I finished. Yeah. I only just finished it.
Wow, that's
It took me
amazing.
a year and a half to finish it.
Yeah. And so now when part of post production is, the marketing part and social media and everything, but does it make it any easier because it was shot with the phone to market it as, like, do you promote it on Instagram and things? I would have had so much fun promoting this on Instagram. Create like its own account, and just as you're producing stuff, here's a shot of this and that, and it looks
Yeah,
very
I
raw.
understand. Like I said, I really am still learning. I mean, I have just finished it. So now I'm starting to really explore where it can go and how to do it, and I am interested in self promotion as well as an avenue. So I'm really picking up tips.
Well, I mean, that's something you have to do now. As a matter of fact, I teach a class of in a high school here in San Diego, and I tell them, I said that to them, that you have to promote yourself, and then as you're gonna become your own brand,
Yes,
you know.
branding. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, when there's E.T., there's all these movies that Steven Spielberg makes, right? But when you think of, oh, I'm in the mood for, you usually say a Steven Spielberg movie or something
Mm,
like that. That's how well his branding is. So everybody thinks of him, and then he has produced and made all these films.
mm,
They're like under him. And so there's a lot of people that will create social media just for the films, and then when
mm,
the film is done, right, and they're
mm.
done promoting it, it just sits there.
Yeah, yeah. A friend of mine who told me that he spent a day removing those sites from his books in distribution. Um, so I mean, only because well and truly they'd been and gone, those films.
Yeah. But now imagine that you have the home, right? Being you as the filmmaker.
Yeah, that's scary.
Well, I mean, you might think it's scary, but that's you are the brand, you are the filmmaker who, and these are every film is a product of yours.
Mm. Yeah, I think that if nothing else, it keeps me, I think, true to me, wanting to make movies that make me happy and make me and stories that I want to tell.
Twisted
So I think,
stories.
yeah.
That was one of the questions that I had for you also. So first of all, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about filmmaking compared to acting?
uh, 1 to 10,
Yeah.
I would say these. Honestly, in all honesty, acting to me is a 10, and filmmaking to me is a 10. I've
Wow.
found something else I love equally. Um, yeah, I really do love them both, and also the amount of skills that I've accrued throughout this process has been really valuable. And I've had to learn everything. I had to learn audio, had to learn film. Thankfully, not on my own. I've had wonderful people that I can go to and ask them, pick their brain. And I do short film sketches. So I do these quick comedy sketches because a lot of my friends are hilarious. And I use that as my training ground. So I do some research on camera movements or some sort of sound design or color grading, and then as an exercise, I'll film their sketches, put them together. But that's just me trying to get better at it. And I love being on a film set. Being on a film set is where I'm most happy, whether it's an actor or carrying wires or directing. So I think it's important to do what makes you happy, right?
Yeah. And like when I started out, I remember I every time somebody said, "Oh, I need a PA or I need a script supervisor or I need, someone to hold the mic or whatever it was." I was like, "Me, I'll do it for free."
Yeah, yeah,
Because
that's me. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
because that's first of all, you meet awesome people.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
in independent filmmaking, not in studio and big budget films or anything like that, but in independent, more casual, like what you did, right? you
Mm.
you get to experience it, but you get to learn. You have people that are more experienced and less experienced, learning from each other,
That's right. Yeah.
on sets. I remember being on sets where there were guys there that have had worked on the special effects, in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh wow, that's a big job.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And they, as long as they like you, they're willing to share their
Yeah. Yeah.
their
That's right.
stories, and
Yeah.
how they love to do that. They love to say, this is how this effect is done. Did you know this? And they're real people.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've experienced nothing but kindness. I haven't. I've been very lucky. I haven't dealt with any divas or anyone who's rude. They've always been really forthcoming. And most of the time, when I ask, oh, can you help me out with something? They'll do it, which is lovely. So I'm very, and then also I am anything they want from me, I'm all over as well. So help each other out. But I think especially for filmmaking, and it's such a small industry. Everyone knows everyone, so it's important how you behave on a film set. Um, so I've only met lovely people that are more than willing to help.
And I will tell you that from my experience, and it's pretty standard no matter where you are in the world, that people who are involved in film, like you said, it is a small industry, but that's because it's very unique people. These are people that are willing to, their arms could be falling off and they're going to continue.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
It's the ultimate team It's unbelievable. Not only in the sense of creativity and being able to troubleshoot on the spot,
Hmm.
optimism. It's going to get done. We're going to get this done. Don't worry about it, at the
Yeah.
same time. And then we're going to make this happen no matter what happens. Here, I'll give you a bone out of my finger right now just to make that work. It's
Yeah.
like, it's, uh, it's crazy. But I'll tell you one of the reasons why I started this whole platform and the idea of making movies with phones and giving people with a dream to make their films a place to do it with a real, genuine film festival came from that love for the people in the industry
Yeah.
that do that. Because there were so many times I meet people on set and their dream was to make a movie, but they're the PA or the whatever, and everybody has that, and it's like, well, you know what? How can I help you out? Like you say, they help you out. How can you help back? And this was one way for me to say, well, I'm giving back to these people because I truly love them. Even filmmakers I've never met before, I would go on set and I loved them before I even met them.
I'm sure they're all very, very grateful.
Well, the whole thing is like it becomes family.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
So
sad when a film finishes because then you don't really get to see everyone in the same spot again.
yeah.
So
And
you do.
sometimes you do. Sometimes
Yeah, and
you
that's
go
right.
on
Yeah.
another film and you're like, "Oh my God,"
Yeah.
and you love to keep doing that. You were talking about the actors that you met in the play
Hmm. Hmm.
and they ended up in your film,
Yeah, that's right.
you know?
Yeah. I know the kind of actors I like. And everyone in the film is amazing to work with, and I'd work with them a million times over. Um, I really respect uh, what I really did leave them alone in many regards. There weren't too many notes because I was really happy with what they were doing, um, and their level of commitment was important. We shot over 14 days, and the fact that they kept turning up and wanting to be there and sacrificed work or um, some social time to be there and help me out was fantastic.
It's a special, to bring our listeners into this. It's like this whole, because there are people that are listening to this who've never been on a film set, who've never made a movie. And I want to inspire them and say, look, this is a very unique and very special, and you're going to love it. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it, obviously. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
but it be
It's not Iron Man. It's
right.
it's
No, but it's a very unique industry, and at the same time it's very going your people, the junkies, right?
Mm.
It's very addicting.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that with the conversation that we had here with you, they sort of were able to paint a picture of what they can expect and how they should work on their film. I mean, regardless of whether you're making a film with a regular camera, with whatever you can find, you made an exceptional film. You made a feature length film, which is over an hour and 20 minutes long,
Mm, yeah.
and you captured with a wonderful story, and that's kind of like what I want to emphasize, that yes, you need the story, but there's this whole other side that has nothing to do with lenses and gimbals and things like that, but it has to do with like the structure of how to tell that story into a film
Mm.
and how to portray that just by grabbing the phone and using all the creativity that you guys did, and having a team, building that team.
Yeah, and that's the other great news is that that we have developed a team now, so we continue to develop stuff all together. The be it short films or I plan to do another one another feature.
Yeah, you said it's a 10-10 between acting and filmmaking, so
Yeah. So I have a wonderful. I'll know exactly who to go to next time. So that's great.
yeah, exactly. No, when you approached them the first time and said, "Hey, I'm gonna shoot this film and we're gonna do it on my." By the way, I have the same phone, the iPhone 6S.
Yes, it's fantastic. Yeah, I got the big one with the big screen. So
Yeah,
just for the film, I got it.
yeah. And
I still
so,
got it.
when you approached them and asked them that, what was their reaction at first?
Um, it was all positive. They all said yes. My first thing was the family.
Mhm.
I wanted to cast the family first. So I went straight to Matt, and then Derba followed. But the whole time I was still trying to find someone to play the Gabby role. Um, so, but they all said yes, and I met them privately. Um, and it was a nice compliment. They told me that my passion is contagious. So I might have brainwashed them in some way. But yeah, they all said yes. They all jumped to it. Really, I didn't have to really. I never felt like I was really having to convince anyone, because I know fundamentally they're all passionate actors,
And it
and
was, and you
they
had they read the script too, right? So,
yeah. So I had an outline and the script. Also, the Gabby character is required to do some pretty raw things, pretty intense stuff. So, um, Tequila never had any problem with that. And all the actors at certain moments have bits that are a bit intense.
well, yeah,
But I shared it around. I got in there as well.
yeah.
And they all were optimistic. Also, it just trust. In fact, on the first day of shooting, as soon as people were about to arrive at the house, when I was just about to shoot the first scene, I said to my wonderful producer Kim, I said, "Look, other than telling them what to do, how do I know they're going to do it? How do I make that connection?" And she just said, "Look, you just have to trust them," and that's true of acting as well. If you trust the people you're working with, it's so much easier, and the work is often better. So I think we all had a good relationship where we all trusted each other.
Yeah, and I think the fact that like what we were talking about before with the actors are handling the camera basically.
Mm.
So they really were in control. I mean, that's the ultimate trust right there too.
Yeah, it's true. I trusted them completely.
Yeah, you didn't really have
I
any
trust.
choice.
Well, yeah, that's right. Well, I remember Jess, who plays Cass, when it was her turn, she would get a bit handshaky, a bit nervous, the responsibility. But that's because she's wants to get it right.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very proud of her performance. I think she's fantastic. She's the junkie
Yeah.
Cass.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
well, you all, I mean, it like I said, it made it, where you're going back and forth, but is this real?
yeah,
Are
yeah.
these real junkies, and somebody and this guy found their footage and he, prettied it up in the beginning and then next thing you know we're watching the real raw stuff. I mean, what's going on here? It's you did a good job. So, yeah, I want
Thank
to
you. Thank you.
congratulate you. That was again, that's your first film. And so I would tell our listeners to come to San Diego not only to meet you in person,
Yeah,
um,
I'll be.
ask you questions, and who knows, maybe they can work with you on your next film,
Mm, absolutely. I need all the help I can get. So.
right? Now, I want to play a little game with you. It's called the shout out game.
Hmm.
And so what I want to do is have you, it's a 20 seconds, it's all it's going to take. It's going to go by so fast. um so in 20 seconds, share movies that maybe films that inspired you to do what you do, to act.
Films that inspired me to act.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. All right. I know. Could I made it I couldn't make it harder. Uh, all right,
I'm getting
so you're ready, get set. No time, no warning. Go.
The Fighter, Batman and Robin, Batman '89, anything with Jack Nicholson, pretty much. Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Dog Day Afternoon, Godfather 2, and I could throw a wild card. Guardians of the Galaxy, Terminator.
All right, finish that last one.
Lethal Weapon.
Nice. So I think I've watched every single film that you just brought up.
Cool. I think there's a lot there, eh?
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing you said at the beginning is those films inspired you to act, and most people say, those are the worst kinds of films for acting because they're so action based.
Well, I'm a big fan of I guess expression. There's some good expressions in there. Yeah.
Well, look, when I was a little kid, I wanted to have some part in filmmaking, but I thought I wanted to be in the movies until I found out they don't really get to live those adventures, that it was all
Yeah,
fake.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then it just sort of like, oh,
Yeah, it's all pretty heartbreaking.
right? Well, when you're a kid, you're just going, I get to ride on, I get to, live with pirates for a while on a ship in the middle of
Yeah.
the ocean. I get to ride horses, play with real swords, yeah, all this stuff. And I was very active when I was a kid too. So these are the kind I loved Vikings for some reason. And
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
they're in vogue right now, right?
Yeah, well, I know, right? For like the last few years, they're like all over the place, and I'm like, oh, this must be a calling to me. I need to make a Viking movie. Um,
Yeah.
and but yeah, it's just funny, the almost. But what I'm telling, I think too, it's we're all in the same industry, so there's a lot of connection in what
Mm,
we all, find similar in this. But what I would say to our listeners is to do, you were bringing up, playing around and testing things on the camera,
mm.
and to keep doing that because that's probably one of the things that has helped you uh, test and have the confidence, right, to make a feature film.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the best things about filmmaking is probably one of the worst, which is you only get good at it by doing it. The more you do it, the better you get. And especially where I am in Australia, there aren't too many opportunities, not as anywhere near as many as there are in the States. So you really are inspired to do it yourself.
Yeah, well, when you come to San Diego, you're going to find out something really interesting about us, which is really quite unique to us. You can go
Is the
from,
tacos?
we have Vikings, but literally, you can go from the mountains to the ocean, downtown, and everywhere in between, all in one day.
Wow.
Yeah, and the deserts. You can hit the deserts too within the
Yeah, I'm
same
looking.
day.
The desert's something I'm quite drawn to. Actually, I want to check that out.
I hate the desert.
Yeah, yeah. I think yeah.
Because I
I'll
hate
find
looking out and it's just all flat and nothing. It's like, ugh.
that.
I
I
like the
like the
mountains.
quiet.
Yeah, I love being on top of mountains looking down at everything, To me that's more epic, but yeah, you can do that here and we even have sand dunes.
Oh, terrific! I'll bring
Yeah.
my boogie board.
There you go. And then you can take that from the dunes out to the ocean and go surfing.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah. So anyways, is there anything that you'd like to, well, first of all, how can our listeners follow you?
Instagram.
Okay.
Um, I'm very very new to it. So I got a grand total of 23 followers. And I'm very very new to this stuff. So and then
What is your
yeah,
Instagram handle or whatever it's called, your username?
Ross Perkins 28.
Okay. And then what is are you on Twitter?
No Twitter.
No,
No.
no tweeting?
No, it's reading. Yeah. But
Uh,
it's in the pipeline. It's in the works.
well, yeah, it helps you with marketing because at least people can tag you,
Yes. Yeah.
instead of just hashtagging you because I'm sure there's got to be more than one Ross Perkins around.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
And then are you on Facebook?
No Facebook at the moment. But I have the Guild, which is the comedy sketch. They're where I upload that.
And that okay, and that's a page on Facebook or
Yes. Yes.
okay. And so that's called the Guild?
Yes.
Okay. And what else where else can do you have a website?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Ross Perkins at WordPress.com.
Okay, cool. So now everybody knows how to go and find you and become your fans.
Terrific.
Well, and I'm sure, if they have questions or whatever, if they absolutely cannot come to San Diego,
Yeah.
yeah, that they can somehow get in touch with you and follow you and network with you or whatever, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
So that's fantastic. I hope our listeners got. I know I've learned a few things here from you, and I'm sure they have too. But I hope they're inspired to do a lot more with their phones and to make their films, and not think that they're limited to short films because they're using phones. I mean, and you didn't even use the iPhone X or the Pixel 3 or anything extravagant like that. And
No, no.
it's a great story. And it's going to be here in San Diego next April, and so are you. So,
Yeah,
th-
thank you.
well, thank you. Thank you for sharing everything. And what time is it over there right now?
It's 4:22 p.m.
4:22. So you're ready for what time do you guys eat dinner there?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. So you're like between lunch and dinner,
Yeah, that's
ready
right.
for a coffee.
We call it afternoon tea. So yeah,
Yeah,
afternoon tea time.
awesome. We'll go have some tea. All right. Say goodbye to our listeners.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you all soon.